Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. Today on the show, we've got NBA free agency through the lens of a Lakers fan, F1's getting spicy, Nike opening the vault, the week's hottest release, and of course, a Hard Pass. All right, let's start with some hot takes. Well, actually, it's just one hot take. Nothing is sacred. Well, that's the rallying cry among sneakerheads this week as Nike teased the release of the legendary Wu-Tang Dunks. According to a Complex Sneakers podcast interview with Drew Greer, who was the global footwear product director for Nike Sportswear in 1999, 100 pairs were made and distributed to members of the Wu-Tang Clan and people who worked at the group's label, Loud Records. Reportedly, dropping this fall to coincide with the 25th anniversary, it will be the first time that the Wu-Tang Dunks will actually appear at retail, and the news has some sneakerheads kinda heated. While many are cheering for the release, others are using it as an example of Nike running out of ideas. Instead of coming up with new sneakers that people want to buy, they keep going back to the past. I would argue that's a matter of taste, and some sneakerheads are notoriously stuck in the 90s and impossible to please, but we'll table that for another conversation. Those who are cheering for this release, count me among them, are wondering what's up with the gatekeeping. This is going to be a recurring theme in the episode, but guess what? Both things can be true. Yes, it's a little frustrating that instead of seeing sneaker culture get hyped for the next Air Jordan or Air Max, the thing getting the most buzz, pun intended, is a sneaker from 25 years ago. And if the rumors are true, a sneaker from 20 years ago, the undefeated Air Jordan 4, might be getting a retro in 2025. Now, on the other hand, if this means that people who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford Wu-Tang Dunks or undefeated 4s can buy them, like people are now able to easily buy them, who cares? I can understand why some sneakerheads would be upset about this news, but count me among the ones who are pleased that fans of the Wu will finally be able to get these. Look, not every sacred sneaker is going to retro, but some will. Original 1984 Air Jordan 1s are no less valuable because they've been retro dozens of times. If you're living your sneaker life in constant fear that people will think your collection is less cool because of a retro, A, you need new sneaker friends, and B, reconsider this whole sneaker thing, period. It's the memories that you made in those sneakers that should count, not the hype surrounding them or how much money they're worth. By the way, John, Make More Kobe Protros Donahoe, release the Kobe Air Jordan pack since you're in such a giving mood. All right, let's move on to the pick of the week. We have the Nike LeBron 21 Grandma's Couch. This is going to be on the 12th for $200 each. Now, you can be forgiven for thinking this is the second Grandma's Couch related sneaker to drop recently because Unheard Of did a collab with Adidas in late 2023. This Nike variant 2-pack is an homage by LeBron James to his late grandma Frida, and it features the LeBron 21 with a raised upper using a floral pattern that was likely found on James's grandma's couch. While the floral pattern dominates the visuals from afar, upon closer inspection, you see the hallmarks of a LeBron signature sneaker, such as the lion hiding amongst the flowers and the LeBron logo getting some feature time as well. Shout out to fans of the Indiana Fever. They not only named Caitlin Clark the top vote getter in the WNBA All-Star Game, but Aaliyah Boston got the number 2 spot as well, beating out Asia Wilson by a few thousand votes. After helping pack the T-Mobile Arena for the most attended WNBA game since 1999, Clark will headline Team WNBA along with Boston and Angel Reese as they take on Team USA's squad that generated tons of headlines over the past several weeks for not including Clark. It's going to be really interesting to see how Clark does. Like, if she holds her own and shows out, that's going to start the hot take machine again. Then again, if she doesn't do well, there's going to be hot takes about how Team USA targeted and bullied her. The moral of the story, just watch the game, enjoy it, and probably log off of social media. Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton popped up on WWE television this past week as part of an angle between Logan Paul and LA Knight. Yeah. Considering it was at Madison Square Garden, it was only right that Brunson played the babyface while Halliburton was the heel. But man, did you hear the pop that Brunson got every time he was on screen? He really is one of the kings of New York, man. This was probably the wildest NBA and pro wrestling crossover since Shaq went through a table in AEW a few years back, courtesy of Cody Rhodes. Or if you want to bring it all the way back, when Dennis Rodman and racist dumpster fire Hulk Hogan were feuding with Diamond Dallas Page and a cord striker in WCW. And speaking of NBA stars making headlines, and no, I'm not talking about Pascal Siakam, who I learned last week has a Red Bull deal after he showed up in the Austrian Grand Prix. It's been a busy week in the association as free agency kicked off. I know we said that we would lay low about NBA stuff after the finals, but there's just so much going on that we can't help it. And also the Olympics, but anyways, let's get some quick takes off about some of the biggest moves and how they relate to my Los Angeles Lakers, because everything on Hard Pass is viewed through the lens of the purple and gold. Okay, well, not really, but it is funny to see some people melt down in the comments about a fandom I've had since I was a kid. All right, Klay Thompson to the Mavericks. This one hurts. Not because I really bought into the whole Klay would love to play here because of his dad narrative, but I did think Klay would relish the opportunity to be mad petty and try to beat his old team with LeBron a la Ray Allen in 2013. But damn, if there's a finals rematch and Klay can pick up the slack for Kyrie when they have to play in it could be really dangerous. Oh, darn. There was those technical difficulties popping up again. Weird. James Harden re-signs with the JV squad. I mean, sure, it would have been interesting to see how James would play with LeBron and AD, but I could easily see that quickly going sideways and ending acrimoniously like the Russell Westbrook experiment. On the other hand, a Kevin Durant experiment, I'd be down for that. His salary matches up with D'Lo's, right? Yeah, I think so. Paul George to the Sixers. So, the playoff P era ends with the JV squad finally making it to the Western Conference Finals exactly one time. In that same time period, the real team in Los Angeles, aka the team George should have gone to, got another ring and the first NBA Cup. In other words, they can have their winning record against us since Lob City. We got the dubs that actually matter. Chris Paul to the Spurs. Yep. I can't even be mad at this one. As funny as it would have been to see CP3 finally suit up for the Lakers all these years later, it makes sense for the point guard to team up with Victor Wembanyama in the hopes that he's the David Robinson to Wemby's Tim Duncan. Who won a championship in year 2, by the way? DeMar DeRozan to, well, I don't know. Look, there's a good chance DeMar will have signed with or been traded to a team that's not the Lakers by the time you watch this. But it would be cool to see Compton's finest come home. Sure, it's fun to see him at the Drew League every summer and how he's hilariously covering up the 3 Stripes logo on his jersey. But just like Harden, Russ, George, and Kawhi Leonard all came home, we need to see DeMar do the same. Just, do it for the right team and rock some of the dopest Kobe Protros and Lakers colors you will ever see. All right, so like we mentioned earlier, Red Bull athlete Pascal Siakam was in Austria last week to help present one of the trophies for the F1 race, which was won by George Russell. What? Yeah, is this 2021 and Mercedes are actually winning races? What's going on? Well, it actually turns out this season is shaping up to be one of the most interesting in a long time, at least in terms of on-track drama. Well, it's probably too late for anybody to catch Max in the Drivers' Championship. McLaren, Ferrari, and maybe even Mercedes are showing that they might be able to mount a challenge to Red Bull in the Constructors' standings. And for the first time in a long time, we might have real beef between drivers who can actually win a race. No offense to the civil war between Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon at Alpine. So, last Sunday, Max and Lando Norris were 1-2 heading into the final laps of the race. Max looked like he had the win in hand, but a bad pit stop and a lockup afterwards gave Lando a chance to overtake. Only problem with that is Max wasn't going to give up that number 1 spot without a fight, and that resulted in a couple of really tight turns and close calls, until it wasn't a close call anymore. On turn 3 of the 64th lap, the Red Bull and McLaren cars made contact, resulting in punctured tires and damage for both drivers. Max was able to recover and finish 5th, while Lando retired his car. Now, our newness to F1 means that we're not really picking a side as to who was responsible. We're just glad something interesting happened while we were watching the race live and that nobody got hurt. But the FIA placed the blame squarely on Max and was penalized for the moves he made to prevent Lando from overtaking him. And then the racing media said that this was vintage Max Verstappen, a generational talent who doesn't know the meaning of the word compromise. He's not the nicest driver on the track, but because Red Bull was so dominant for the past 2.5 years, No one really saw that side of Max for a while, but after this incident, it seems to be rearing its head again, and the knives of his haters, they're back out, including good friend Lando Norris. Well, they were good friends, but this incident might reset that relationship. And you know what? That's awesome, man. To hear these racing journalists be overjoyed that drivers at the top of the standings are finally getting feisty is not unlike hearing the ass clowns on TV here in the US talk about the good old days when athletes didn't like each other. I guess they are also tired of the era of drivers being nice to each other and popping up on each other's Twitch streams. They want the days of Michael Schumacher, who had no problem barging into another team's garage to fight someone, or Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg finding ways to needle each other as they battled for the drivers' championship while they were on the same team. We're kinda cool either way because our default assumption is everything's a work until it's proven to be a shoot, brother. But as long as there's real competition and everybody's safe in those cars, what matters is the entertainment value. But yo, work or shoot, this is gonna make for interesting content for Netflix when they cut together the next season of Drive to Survive. I can't wait. All right, it's time for this week's Hard Pass. We take a look at a few things in the culture that just needs to go, like the Bronny James discourse. Why? Because we understand both sides. This is a rare situation when you can look at one argument and say, yeah, they have a point, and see what the other side has to say and come away in agreement with them as well. As long as it's in good faith, i.e. people wanting the best for Bronny, there's not really a bad take in this situation. Okay, so Bronny James was the 55th pick in the NBA draft. Normally, the 55th pick in the draft doesn't get a lot of publicity. I mean, prior to Bronny, the best player to be drafted in that spot was probably Patty Mills, a solid role player on a championship team. I don't think anybody with half a basketball mind has delusions of Bronny replicating the success of his father. But if he can have a decade-long career of solid play on good teams like a Patty Mills, that's a pretty good scenario. What some people are taking issue with is how Bronny came to be the 55th pick in the draft. With a resume that doesn't exactly scream NBA draft pick in the first or second round, Bronny was taken by my Lakers, the team who also happened to employ LeBron James. By the time we tip off in October, and don't kid yourself, Bronny is going to be on that opening night roster, it will be the first time a father and son duo will take the court in the NBA. No matter what new coach JJ Redick says, and yes, it's still weird to say Coach JJ Redick, it was less of a pick of need for the Lakers and more a pick to make history while showing superstars not named LeBron James what this organization does for players who deliver for them. Anyways, if you think this was a historic move by the Lakers and a neat way to tie the bow on LeBron's career, you're right. This is a franchise that gave the late Kobe Bryant a thank you note in the form of a near max contract for the final years of his career. Using a second round pick in a weak draft on a kid with LeBron's pedigree is practically nothing. Reality is, the odds of a second rounder becoming the next Nikola Jokic is 1 in a billion. The realistic expectation for a second rounder is the last or second to last guy on the bench. Bronny will get a chance to develop under a system that will be invested in his success more so than if he had been drafted or signed as an undrafted free agent with another team. And if it turns out Bronny is basically Jello ball with better representation, the playing time won't be there. Look, LeBron obviously loves his son, but if a fifth ring is on the line, he will have no problem cutting Bronny like he's Heihachi throwing Kazuya into a volcano. And on the flip side, if you think this is nepotism at its worst, I can also concede your point. We're in an era where even casual basketball fans have access to highlights, data, and analytics for every player going back to their middle school days. That's not to say everybody is an expert and should be taken seriously, but it's fair to say the average fan is more knowledgeable than they were even a decade ago. And most fans, analysts, and league personnel would argue correctly that even in a weak draft, Bronny James is not worth a second round pick. Like, the Lakers could have instead drafted a player with greater than or equal potential as Bronny and then signed Bronny as an undrafted free agent. This was a made-for-television moment orchestrated by LeBron, ESPN, Nike, and everybody else with a vested interest in Bronny. It smacks of the Decision 2.0. There are dozens of prospects who could have benefited from the notoriety that comes with being an NBA draft pick, even if they don't turn out to be good enough to hang in the league. Just like being a lottery pick means teams will keep giving alleged bust multiple opportunities, being a second-round pick by the Lakers is something a player can tout when he's looking for a spot in EuroLeague or in a different league around Asia. Bronny would have been Bronny, draft pick or not. It reeks of a scripted moment that not even the worst of reality shows would dare, because it would be so obvious. So, yeah, we can't really begrudge you for having one of these two takes. I do think it's a lot of chatter over something that's probably not going to mean a lot for anybody besides the James family in a few years, because I don't know, man. Bronny is going to get a chance to play for sure, but you have to imagine there's not an insignificant amount of dudes right now who can't wait to take it to him like he's the 1999 Chicago Bulls. James is not going to have one story of somebody trying to bust his ass. He's going to have a whole season's worth. Like, can you imagine what Steph Curry is going to do the moment he sees Bronny? What about Russell Westbrook, who probably wouldn't have appreciated if LeBron had gotten on stage during the pop-out? Anthony Edwards might have an Adidas commercial that's basically a 30-second diss track directed at Bronny. It's not going to be easy for Bronny, but if he can withstand it, more power to him. I just don't know that I'd bet on it at the moment. Now, if Bronny wants to start a second career and open a sneaker store with exclusive LeBrons that won't be accused of backdooring shenanigans, I can see that working out. Let's just all hope he doesn't start a podcast with Gabrielle Union in a few years, though. All right, and before we go, here at the show, we'd like to share our condolences to the family and friends of Marcus Thaler, a designer at Adidas who passed away at the age of 71. While Thaler's name doesn't get thrown around as much when it comes to calling out legendary designers in the sneaker game like Tinker Hatfield or Wilson Smith or Peter Moore, he left a sizable impact at the Three Stripes for 47 years, particularly with Adidas Originals. According to Nice Kicks, some of the silhouettes that are now staples of the Adidas Originals lineup that Thaler worked on include the ZX8000, the EQT, and sneakers with the torsion bar. In 2008, Adidas celebrated his legacy along with Jacques on a special edition ZX8000 that bears their faces in the same style as the Stan Smith. In 2012, Adidas released a short film that features Thaler working with young designers at Adidas as they handcrafted some sneakers for their top endorsers like Derrick Rose, Lionel Messi, Caroline Wozniacki, and Snoop Dogg when Snoop was still an Adidas guy. When we lose legends like this in the sneaker world, it should serve as a reminder that there were real people like you and me who brought these sneakers that we enjoy and talk about to life. Yes, we want to be like the athletes who rock them on the court or the celebrities who flex on them on the street. But it's usually someone else behind the scenes who actually came up with the idea of the sneaker in the first place. As this sneaker game gets older, it's time we recognize these names and faces while we still can. Rest in peace, Marcus. And that's going to do it for this episode of Hard Pass. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to be featured in a future episode, give us a call at 818-493-9325. Leave a short message, your social media if you want, no more than 30 seconds. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Peace.